Football is back, and so is winning season at MyBookie. Use promo code Gators on a deposit of $50 or more, and you can receive up to $200 in cash instantly to your MyBookie account. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Gators Breakdown is proud to partner with AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/Gators to try. This episode of Gators Breakdown is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Gators and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Gators.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC, Twitter, X. Is anybody even using Threads? I'm on Threads anyway, but had to get that taken care of. But there we go. Wherever at GatorDave_SEC, you guys know. You can find me there if you don't follow me there already. So, hey, a small preview here of the McNeese game for the Florida Gators. Not a huge game that's getting many people excited, of course, coming off the loss to Utah. You know, I think we'll stew on that one until Florida actually takes the field on Saturday and plays a football game. But we'll get into it a bit. I mean, not much here. You hope not much here if you're a Gator fan. But if you go back to, and we'll take a peek at McNeese and their terrible performance last week, which is why you really shouldn't be all that worried. But we'll get into it anyway, just a little bit. There's not much to get into. This game is more about Florida than it is McNeese. Florida is playing Florida on Saturday. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful in any kind of way, but hey, that's just where we're at right now. But if Florida, if that is any kind of fall game, there's some trouble. There's some trouble there. But I don't expect it to be. So we'll get into that we'll get into that. And of course, as well, the big news coming out today, Jadarrius Perkins will be hitting the transfer portal. One game in for the Gators already. So we'll get into that too just a second. And hey, whatever. So some of you joining me on YouTube right now, whatever, throw some comments. We'll see. Like I said, shorter episode here, not a really in-depth preview of the opponent this week, given who Florida is playing, but leave some comments and we can finish up the episode that way. But everybody, like, subscribe right here on YouTube. Thanks for hopping on live. I know, gotta kind of get them in when I can. Didn't really have an announcement for the time of this episode, but put it out there on Twitter. Some of you joining in, put it on Gators Breakdown Plus. Some of you joining in right now. So thank you so much for hopping on this live episode of Gators Breakdown. Like, subscribe. Your support goes a long, long way in helping Gators Breakdown grow. Been really busy at gatorsbreakdown.com. Was first one up with the Jadarrius Perkins news there. I got wind of that this morning, but was told to hold off, and I did respectfully so to let him announce it. So there it was. Jadarrius Perkins did announce that he was going to transfer from Florida, but you can find the story there at gatorsbreakdown.com. Billy Napier press conference last night as well. I summarized that for you a good bit. Tyreek Sapp discusses emotions, improvements, and motivation after loss. So a lot at gatorsbreakdown.com. Guys, please go check it out. You can support me there as well. And Gators Breakdown Plus. Hey, the latest episode of Gators Breakdown, I gave you guys a preview of what we do on Gators Breakdown Plus. That chat episode about, kind of where the team comes from here. What do you want to see to make you feel better as a fan? And all the questions that came along with that. Good Q&A with Gators Breakdown Plus members. If you want to take part in chats like that, join Gators Breakdown Plus. Link is in the description. A lot of good stuff there. You get the ad-free episodes, the Discord access, extra episodes. You get the newsletters from gatorsbreakdown.com, the Q&A as we did, giveaways, custom shout-outs, all that stuff. Gators Breakdown Plus, keeping it. Hey, guys, keeping me busy this fall is already. I love it, love it, love it, and just want to keep it going. And there's another way you can keep it going. And just interact right there on that Discord server with a lot of other Gator fans, Gators Breakdown Plus members. So, all right, let's get into the big news today. Jadarrius Perkins tweets out that he's going to transfer. And one omission of a name, of course, called everybody's eye. But here it is. Here's his tweet. I want to appreciate Dan Mullen and Scott Strickland for giving me the opportunity to be a Gator, something I'll remember and cherish forever. With that being said, I've decided to enter my name in the transfer portal as a graduate. A really unfortunate situation. I love all my teammates that has kept me up throughout everything. Outside noise means zero. Only the people in this circle knows the real, and that's all that truly matters. Wishing my brothers luck in finishing this season, and you guys worked so hard for it. So go back to the beginning. I want to appreciate Dan Mullen and Scott Strickland. No mention of Billy Napier, but I was told when I heard this morning and made phone calls to confirm that it was going to happen, that there's no hard feelings here. Jadarrius Perkins has some things to figure out, and also he's late in his career. He lost his job to Jaden Hill. He wants to play more snaps, and the way college football is now, there's a way of doing that. And plus, now he's a graduate transfer, so he's already transferred in one time. If you go back to it, what year was that? Making sure before joining Florida, of course, in 2021, he spent his freshman and sophomore seasons at Mississippi Gulf Coast, there with DeJuan Black, of course. There, and then he come into Florida in 21, and of course 22. Played in all 13 games last year for the Gators. 14 tackles, 12 solo, 2 tackles for loss. He won one interception versus Georgia, I believe, where he kind of just ripped it out there along the sideline. But you could kind of see maybe why, if he wants some playing time, he really wasn't going to get it here at Florida. If we go back to last week in Florida's first game, he only played 6 snaps, recorded 1 tackle versus Utah. And look, we figured this would be the deal if Jaden Hill won this job. And you go back to spring, and it was kind of a surprising move in some ways when we saw Jaden Hill was going to be moved from outside corner and moved inside to this nickel star role that would create a competition here between Jaden Hill coming off of injury and can he stay healthy? That's one thing. So it does hurt Florida in that way. If Hill does go down, now you've got to fall back and probably turn to a true freshman and Sharif Denson. And Billy Napier brought up yesterday, kind of with Sharif Denson's name, you're going to see him a lot more this weekend. And I think originally we thought that was because of giving the opponent and you're going to have a chance to play some freshmen. But I think there was a little more behind that. And a day later, we get the news that Perkins is going to transfer away from Florida. So Sharif Denson, the big benefactor here as a true freshman, going to be slotted in right there behind Jaden Hill. So it does hurt depth at the spot. And as Florida, can they move some other guys in that spot maybe to help with the depth? Can a Kimber or a Moore slide in if they need some help there? Jakeem Jackson as a true freshman. Bryce Thornton maybe as another option. So, I think if we go and we look at the depth chart that Florida released just yesterday, Jadarrius Perkins was on that. You look at Star, and it was Jaden Hill, Jadarrius Perkins, Sharif Denson. Okay, well, there we go. We get the Sharif Denson bump up. Aaron Gates now as a true freshman who may be getting a spot. He's on the depth chart at one of the cornerback spots. Does now he maybe find a role there. So I think, maybe we'll get an answer against McNeese when you probably, hopefully, can take Hill off the field, give Denson some reps, and then let's see who else slides into that spot right there. But well wishes for Jadarrius Perkins. I hope it all works out for him. Hopefully he can go somewhere and get some more snaps and play. Kind of an inconsistent career at Florida. Didn't ever really light it on fire. Had some good moments. And like I said, that big pick versus Georgia last year there, but just couldn't put it together consistently. Play in, play out, game in, game out. And then it didn't look all too great in the first game versus Utah last Thursday, a week ago. So, but want some more playing time, showcase his abilities this late in his career. So grad transfer and go on and see if he can make something out of himself at another school. So be interested to see where he ends up. Does he have to, level, same level as Florida? Does he have to, drop down to a lower tier school? We've seen some of these recent transfers that were Dan Mullen guys transfer away, and you got the likes of going to, defensively lately. You've seen some guys go to Pitt. You've seen, okay, that's a pretty good defense. I won't follow anybody for going to Pitt. but we've seen Temple, in the regards, or guys that just transfer away and end up going to Lorenzo Lingard had a big run for Akron, I believe. That's where he's at this past weekend. So, does he have to drop if he wants that playing time? Will he get it at a high level? Or does he need to drop down a level to get the reps that he wants and maybe showcase his abilities for his next step? So Jadarrius Perkins, senior defensive back, on his way out for the Gators, going through the transfer portal. We wish him luck there. So before I move on, I'll go ahead and go to some comments right here, so we're not missing. So I don't have to come back to this at the end of the episode. Tiffany, we've got to cover it. I know you say nobody cares about this. We got to cover it. As I said, at least it's a depth hit for Florida, but in some ways, and I think I see it in here, at least we get to see the freshman now. And that we're all excited for Sharif Denson to get some more reps and get his, he played versus Utah there, but had some snaps there. But now even more snaps there for the true freshman. So as Jonathan May says, rather see young guys get snaps over a senior. Yeah, me too. We're going to get it, I think. And my thing is too, maybe Sharif Denson was maybe even pushing for some playing time, and maybe it wasn't just Jaden Hill here in this regard. And maybe splitting reps behind Jaden Hill was also a factor coming in here. Michael Bozeman, I'm assuming this is coming to me or maybe somebody else in there, but I'll answer it anyway. Will you be at the game? I'll be there in Gainesville. Come find me. Everybody, you can message me on Twitter or whatever. Come find me there. I'll put up the map where we're at. Harmonic Woods tailgate, first home game for the Gators, and we have a lot of fun. The first half of the day is going to be a kind of tribute to Jimmy Buffett and his recent passing. So there's a big Buffett fans there at the tailgate. So there'll be a lot of love shown there, and then kind of the get down and party for all day. We get started early, and it's a night game, so we'll be there. So Matthew Walker. I don't mind freshmen getting more reps. It can be a sign of recruits' early playing time and smooth development. Yeah, there you go. That's where I was going to. Maybe this is more of a Denson thing as well. So I'm ready to see it. I am ready to see it for sure. Look, and Sharif Denson, I had him on Gators Breakdown as a recruit. I got to interview him. He's here in Jacksonville. It was easy to get to. So selfishly, being a Jacksonville kid, and a Jacksonville guy myself, I hope Sharif Denson goes there and just we see him really push, and it's not so much of a drop off, if it is a drop off from Jaden Hill to him. I mean, look, he was recruited for this star role, this nickel role, from the time he was getting looked at by Florida, from the time he committed. This is where we pegged him. This is where Florida pegged him. This is where he knew he was going to play. So now getting those reps through spring and getting the reps through fall camp now. First game last week. I think I'm excited for a game like McNeese where you should be able to get in and get a whole lot of reps. I think we're all now with the transfer news and just because we want to see what Sharif Denson does at this nickel spot. All right, let's turn the page a little bit to a little bit of a preview. And, oh, man, Florida's opponent this week, McNeese, did not have the best look of it last week in week 1 to start their season off. Against Tarleton State, they lost 52-34. And I'm throwing up the stats for you on YouTube so you can get a good look, but I will go through them right here. This should let you know everything you need to know about this game. Florida should have no issues. There's some big issues if Florida has issues. I don't think we'll see it, guys. That'll be the first time I kind of go away, from that. I think this will be a pretty easy game for our Gators. Lost 52-34 versus Tarleton State last week, did McNeese. And if you look at the stats here, let's just go through the stats here. I mean, not much of a McNeese preview. We're not going to go into players you should really be looking out for and all that kind of stuff. They're an air raid offense. But you couldn't tell it from these stats. First downs, Tarleton 30, McNeese 18. Third down efficiency, McNeese was 4 of 19. Florida 3 of 13 on defense on third down last week versus Utah. You'd expect that trend to continue this week for a McNeese team that just went 4 of 19 on third down versus Tarleton State. Something to look out too. for Florida's offense is to get their third downs much, much better than we saw last week. Tarleton State was able to go 8 of 12 on third down versus McNeese. So something I think we should be able to look at for Florida is, you should go have some success on third down as well. McNeese gave up 554 yards. I mean, this is FCS level here. FCS level opponent here. And you give up, it's in your own conference, don't get me wrong, but this is lets you know what Florida should be able to do. You gave up 554 yards of offense. McNeese only gained 278. I mean, that right there, that pretty much tells you all you need to know about this game. The score tells you, and then the total yards. McNeese, being that air raid team, only threw for 189 yards, over 18 of 41 through the air, 4.6 yards a pass. Florida's defense should not have much of an issue here. We'll see what it means for the offense. Tarleton State was able to throw for 344 yards, 20 of 34, 10-point yards a pass there. They did throw 2 interceptions there, so McNeese, getting causing some interceptions there. McNeese only 89 yards rushing. Tarleton had 210, so the Florida ground game should be able to find its groove this week. Something I know we'll be looking for. I'll get into that. I'll go through some things I want to see here after we go through this summary here. But a very high penalized game for both teams. We'll see what that means here as well. So McNeese, I didn't, of course, go back and really look at the game. Did they cause the 3 turnovers? There were 2 interceptions thrown by Tarleton State and 1 fumble lost by them as well. So there's you look at last week and kind of why we feel like we should be able to and can kind of gloss over the type of opponent Florida has here. Not much to speak of in way of one game so far for McNeese, losing 52-34 last week. So should be pretty easy day for our Gators, where they can kind of just concentrate on themselves a little bit, get better. Florida's going to play Florida on Saturday. So hopefully that means a lot of points on the board, a lot of yards, and not a lot of yards for the opponent coming up this weekend. But hey, I'll go through almost kind of position by position of what I want to see from the Gators this weekend. It's a lot of basics, kind of a bounce back from last week at the same time, things that you guys want to see as well. You can comment along the way. I'll come back on the other side of it. But I think we all know what we want to look for and what to see from this Florida Gator team. But hey, before we get there, NFL is kicking off this weekend. If you're not already in, it is time to get in. Get it started with MyBookie. As a bettor, hey, look, you demand perfection, and MyBookie delivers. NFL, college football, brand new cash out system gives you the options to bet and win all season long. In the first 2 legs, if your parlay hit, okay, well, good. And then cash out early and use the funds on another bet, or let it ride for the chance at a bigger payday. Join the MyBookie family for an entire season filled with odds boost, free bets, and super contests. This season, MyBookie has a no-strings-attached cash bonus that lets you deposit and withdraw quick. Use promo code GATORS on a deposit of $50 or more, and you can receive up to $200 in cash instantly to your MyBookie account. Bet your deposit amount once, and you're ready to cash out at any time. Again, that's promo code GATORS to claim your cash deposit bonus. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. And Gators Breakdown is proud to partner with AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health. 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients that makes AG1 formulated to support whole body health, raising the standard for quality in the supplement category. It replaces your multivitamin, your probiotic, and more in one simple, daily, drinkable habit. I now start my day with drinking AG1 after pairing it with exercise and diet, and I'm ready to tackle these busy days of football season. My focus is at peak level. It's a comprehensive solution, and if you need that from your supplement routine, then try AG1. Get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/Gators. That is drinkag1.com/Gators to check it out. And Gators Breakdown is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you ever find that have trouble falling asleep, your brain suddenly won't stop talking, your thoughts start racing right before bed or other inopportune moments. Well, it turns out one way to make those thoughts go away is to talk them through. Therapy gives you a place to do that, gives you a chance to do that. So you can get out of those negative thought cycles and find some mental and emotional peace. Therapy empowers you to be the best version of yourself, something most of us are trying to achieve. I've seen it help my family. I've seen it help my friends, and there's an easy way to get help. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Gators today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Gators to get started. All right, let's get this thing going. We'll hear from Billy Napier a little bit from media session, from SEC teleconference as well. So if it sounds a little bit different, if it sounds like Billy Napier was on a phone in some of these sound bites, it's because he is for the SEC teleconference. But I pulled some sound bites from a late Wednesday press conference to get us going here. Kind of bounce back from Utah. Looking forward to this game as well. And just kind of position by position, a lot on the offensive line to get going here. But let's first get started with Billy Napier and the leadership of this team since the loss to Utah.
Well, you just listen to players, you observe players. We have multiple cross sections of players that we meet with throughout the week that represent different groups. And we give them a platform where we have a leadership development kind of things that we do. We have a group that meets on Monday, a group on Tuesday, a group on Wednesday. And that's very evident. I think something that's, maybe it's hard for people to comprehend. Nobody wants to do it more than they want to do it. Does that make sense? I mean, there is no fan, there's no alumni, there's no one that has worked hard as these players have worked. Right, and there's no one that's worked as hard as this staff has worked. No one wants to perform and be at their best and be loyal and do their job for their team than the players and the staff. Okay, and I think we like to say, hey, it's we view things from our lens, right, and our expectation and our standard is more demanding than anyone on the outside. Right, and I think that's an important piece here. And look, with some of the things that happened in that game, criticism is well deserved. Right, I mean, I think for me, those are the things that we're very aware of that, and I think our players they want to do better. I mean, there's not one individual out there that's just like, hey, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's important for people to understand that.
There we go. And look, he's right. And look, I threw it out there last week. This team needs to have their leaders step up. Are there leaders? Yes. Can the leaders get it done? That's the thing. I think every team's going to have leaders to some point. How effective are the leaders? I think in bouncing back from that disappointing loss, I think that's where it's going to determine where this team can go and move forward away from that loss. Make sure you have a good performance this week versus a team you should have a good performance this week. Try to put it behind you. Billy Napier mentioned, hey, look, Tuesday, Wednesday practices were tough. Now, hopefully it wasn't tougher than what it has been, because at my point, why wasn't it at that level to begin with? It should not have taken a loss. It should not have taken a slap in the face to get going. I don't think so. I don't think that was what it was. I think this team just really shot itself in the foot a little bit, and we'll get into that a bit. And playing at home, playing versus an opponent like this, a lot of the issues are just kind of going to take care of itself and go away on their own. If they don't, then you got to look deeper at what the issues are. So the leaders are really, really got to step up, and they're taking it too. Criticism, well deserved. He said they're aware of that. It's going to come with the territory. Even Steve Spurrier out there, you can tell in his voice. I think he was on Feinbaum, where not too too positive about where Florida's at and kind of what happened last week there. So hopefully, big bounce back this week. They have those leaders step up. I think, they know. I mean, Tyreek Sapp had it too. And I'll pull up some of his quotes there from what he had too. But talking about motivation, you would think still early in the season, a lot of things to play for. There's plenty of motivation there. But I do like his, answer. It goes, the emotions of the defense after a loss. He says, we're extremely motivated. I love all my guys on that defense, from the older guys to the young guys. It's not only motivating, but they want to win. Everybody sees it. Even in the good, we try to find things we can do better. Even in the ups and downs of that game and the downs, we try to find things that we can do better, maximize the opportunity, just ways we can play better. And obviously looking in the mirror at ourselves of what we could have did better. He had a big speech after the team as well. So he's one of the leaders I'm looking for. I think he can be that leader type. So I am looking for a big, cleaner bounce back this week. I think it's going to happen anyway, just being at home and style of opponent. But I think we'll know of the stuff we're about to go through here if the leadership has gotten all the way through and improved on so much of the issues that plagued Florida last week. So, hey, let's go through it. Like I said, kind of position by position, but I kind of wanted to start with that soundbite there from Billy Napier, kind of getting us going here, getting a bounce back from Utah, and it starts with the leaders. But hey, let's start at the quarterback position. We'll start at the quarterback position, of course. Graham Mertz starting quarterback and, doing what he did last week, throwing for 44 times and over 300 yards. And I think, start looking at it now, no interceptions, get the timing down. Every rep is going to matter. Here as you start trying to build this offense with him at quarterback. We saw some timing issues last week, given the opponent now, you shouldn't have as many of those, but, the communication, you and the receivers have to be on the same page. So all these game reps going on with that, I think, a lot of the interception last week had a lot to do with that. Can there be some fluke interceptions along the way? Sure. Or if you're throwing the ball 40, 50 yards down the field, those don't necessarily have to be bad decisions, bad throws that get picked off. So we'll be able to tell, but I'd love for just no picks in general. That means everybody's doing their job. Look smooth running the offense. I'll get into that in just a second as well. Kind of like the tempo of the offense, but also kind of just almost going back to the interception. Get on the same page. Man, everybody be on the same page. Get the play in. Get to the snap. Get to the line. Make your checks. But hopefully, not a lot of miscommunication. There's going to be a lot of young guys on the field in this game. So, I'd still like to see it, no matter how young they are. You're at home. You'll have the crowd on your side. Look smooth doing it. Graham Mertz is supposed to know this offense from front to back. Each play here and there. You're at home. You have the advantage of that. Go ahead there and just look smooth running the offense. And one more, throw the ball down the field. We want to see some more downfield shots. This should be where you should be able to take advantage of your athleticism. I know it's not going to be such a huge part of this offense. We heard all spring. We heard all fall camp. He lives in that short to intermediate range. Well, in a game like this, we need to see the ball thrown down the field. But part of that, and that's going to go to the next part, is your offensive line's got to give you time. Now, I do think that bit Florida last week. I don't think they even had the opportunity to go down the field a whole lot last week. And Billy Napier loves those long developing routes. And now I think, with an offensive line that has yet to prove they can give you time to pass block, that's what they need to prove in this game. So, Billy Napier, I'll start with some sound from him on this offensive line from Wednesday's SEC teleconference. And, just kind of those guys bouncing back.
I think that there were a number of factors that contributed maybe to our situation. I think in particular, penalties, negative plays, those are the enemy, right? I think football is a game of efficiency. You want to stay on schedule. I think we had a number of things that contributed to our ability. We got knocked off track. We're playing behind the sticks a lot, and that affected our ability to be consistent and stick with the running game. But I've got a ton of confidence in our group. I think some of our issues were in protection more than other stuff. But, we've always had really good play up front. It's been one of the things that we have invested in, we believe in. That group's always played well. Even last year, I think that group played well for us. So I think you're going to see improvement from this group as the season goes. We do have, I think we kind of went into the game with maybe only 13 starts with that group up front. So that group is inexperienced. I do think that we'll continue to get better as we go. I think, at some point we'll get Kingsley Guacan back. I think Lindell Hudson, as the third tackle, will be available this week. So all those things I think will contribute to our group playing better. And I know they feel that they can play better as well.
Definitely should be the game they play better. And, hey, look, it's a catch-22 here. You like to have Kingsley out there so your starting five get reps together before Tennessee, get those game reps together. But you start weighing it, and I'm not sure he's could go if he wanted to, but I think you got to rest him for Tennessee. Like I said, I'd love to have that starting five, those reps, but he's got to be on the field for this Florida offensive line to be their best. So the plan right now, hold him out, and hopefully that he's ready next week. That's the plan, is to get him ready for Tennessee. The plan is to get him on the field for then. So he went through a lot back in the spring and most of fall camp there, did Kingsley. But this offensive line together, the starting five now, and then when he gets on the field, doesn't have a whole lot of experience together. So we'll get into that too in just a second too, when Billy Napier goes into more about the penalties in the offensive line. But how do you dominate this game up front for the offensive line? Well, there's two ways, but some of it's going to have to do with the run-pass ratio. And I'll go back to the quarterback spot a little bit. And do we want to see the quarterback position, whether it be Graham Mertz and Max Brown, throw the ball 40 times again? If that's going to be more of a factor of this offense, do we see the run-pass ratio tilt more to the passing game? Or is this a game where you lean more toward the running game because it struggled last week and you're just trying to get that in motion? Can you get the run game in a groove? I know given the opponent, and it may not mean much to you, but this starting five, or this five now, and the reserves that are going to be counted on in the coming weeks, they need all the reps they can get, and they need I think a confidence boost after last week as well, given it doesn't really matter who the opponent is. They need to go out there and look good, and at least prove that they can at least go out there and do it. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. Billy Napier, kind of going on to this next part here, I know you heard Will and I talk about it on Monday night of, hey, look, there was a big thing about it was a surprise for Billy Napier, the way they showed up at Utah, and then the penalties and just how they kept mounting up and the inopportune times of the penalties being there. And it really caught Napier by surprise. And I know you go back to it, and Will says, he doesn't think so. If it happened that bad, he doesn't think that was just the first time. But Billy Napier, he's putting his foot down on that a little bit. He's like, hey, this was a surprise. But I didn't see these things in fall camp in the scrimmages.
I think there's a level of intent there. I mean, the struggle there is that I don't necessarily know that those things had showed up in a practice setting, if that makes sense. And listen, discipline, everything matters, right? I don't necessarily think it's one individual thing. I think maybe it's a reflection of a lot of things, right? So a lot of this is game day, I don't want to use the word anxiety, but I mean, there's an element of that to it, right? First game on the road, difficult environment. I wish I could tell you that, hey, maybe those things had been an issue in scrimmage settings. We played pretty clean. We've done a ton of work with crowd noise, but ultimately, as a coach, if we go to the park and we play clean football, you can live with some things, but those are the things that keep you up at night, right? So we want to try to eliminate any mistakes that are totally under our control, and those certainly were.
Yeah, so the penalties are certainly under their control. Billy Napier had no idea that they were coming, so you hope at least at home you'll have the crowd on your side. This is the crowd on your side. It'll be a little quieter, a lot quieter, but you should be able to finally rally the troops. And I asked myself this question here: can being young, having a new center, being on the road, can those be issues? Absolutely. Nobody will go against that. Should they be issues? That's where we're at. That's where we've got to start asking ourselves the question. So hopefully that was just a blip on the radar, and they don't show up again. And, if they haven't been showing up, then maybe that was it. Maybe they can move past it because it wasn't there to begin with. But when you're practicing in the indoor practice facility, when you're scrimmaging in the swamp, you can probably do air. I mean, we've heard it on our own side. When teams come into the swamp, they prepare for it. They prepare for how loud it's going to be, how hostile it's going to be. And the fans still make an impact. It happened to Utah last year. It happened to Auburn recently. It happened to Alabama recently in recent years when they come to the swamp of just how difficult it is. They prep for it. But it didn't matter. Well, if we listen to Billy Napier here, it says, okay, we prep for it. Nothing showed up, but we go on the road and it's a hostile environment and it had an effect. So that's part of college football. And hopefully now being at home, you don't have to worry about it a couple weeks now till you go on the road to Kentucky, but being at home should eliminate a ton of the issues up front for the offensive line. So now it should just be more about play. It really should be more about play, the physicalness of playing the position, playing offensive line. So now Jake Slaughter, you would hope he looks a little more smooth at center. You hope the communication's better. You hope your right tackle doesn't run the wrong way on that important fourth down play. And now Lindell Hudson getting word that he may have some reps. And after what we saw from Damian George at right tackle last week, you'd love for him to get some reps and maybe see if he can push for some more reps. And where if George is going to continue to struggle, you may have another option there. So, look, that's not to say much. Austin Barber didn't play great last week either at left tackle. He was supposed to be something we could count on. We didn't worry about him at left tackle, but after what we saw last week, that was not a shoe-in. That was not a for sure thing. So everybody along the offensive line can play better. It starts with playing smarter, and then once they play smarter, they can take that next step. So honestly, a lot of the backups, you got some young faces there. Jalen Farmer, of course. Najee Harris should be getting plenty of reps, and I'm eager to see where he gets the reps. Does he? We'll probably see him at center and guard this game and getting some reps where he's going to be cross trained. He may be needed in either spot at some point this year, so wouldn't be surprised there. Roger Kearney not on the depth chart. Well, we'll see what that means for him. And he was getting the snaps in the spring game, struggled there, but put in a whole lot of work in the offseason. So do we see, even though he's not on the depth chart, well, I think we'll see some players like Roger Kearney when it comes down to it. So yeah, up front, just got to play better, got to play smarter, get rid of these penalties, and then hopefully you can help this run game. That's where we got to go next, right? And hey, these backs have got to get in tune with the offensive line. We heard Billy Napier say that earlier this week is, hey, when the rushing yards aren't there, it's not just the offensive line. The running backs have to do their part as well. Have a cohesive formula when you work with the offensive line. So Montreal Johnson, Trevor Etienne, of course, go be leading the way, but we should be seeing a whole lot of Trayon Webb. But given the struggles last week, you may see Johnson and Etienne more than we thought, or still more than we think, just to kind of get in the groove with this offensive line. But Webb, maybe, some walk-ons as well, but getting a whole lot of carries here in the second half of this game. You'd hate for Johnson and Etienne to get hurt in a game like this, but they may need the reps along with this offensive line when you get there. But one of the biggest things I'm going to be looking for, depending on how much Florida throws the ball, the pass blocking from the running backs. That was not great last week. We know the offensive line is going to need the help, but they struggled in that regard. We heard all preseason about things besides running the ball these running backs wanted to get better at. Trevor Etienne specifically mentioned pass blocking, and it didn't look good last week versus Utah. So that's where some of the things away from the ball that I'm looking for the running backs, of course, that's going to be one of them. We tied this together to the wide receivers, talking about offense still and young guys. I know we want to see that. The depth chart comes out on Wednesday, and Eugene Wilson, the true freshman, is listed as a starter. So was it going to happen anyway? I'm not sure. Khalil Jackson, who was on the starters last week, Napier mentioned him being injured, kind of did lead the way here, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Eugene Wilson listed as a starter. Anyway, I do think if Khalil was healthy, he'd probably still be listed as a starter, but it does open the door here for Eugene Wilson. Backed up by Aiden Mizell, I know somebody would want to see as well. Didn't really get to see him last week versus Utah. So, of course, hopefully Andy Jean's healthy, ready to go. I know he was a bit injured last week before the Utah game. So maybe there's 3 true freshmen we do see, but, Caleb Douglas, Marcus Burke had some big catches last week as well. So those guys need the experience as well. Burke still has, even though he's older than those freshmen that are out there, still needs the reps because he still hasn't played a whole lot in his career. But going to that, clear separation. Get behind the defense. Now, this goes back to the offensive line. This goes back to the quarterback's position if they have the time to go down the field. But wasn't great separation last week from these receivers in that Utah defense? This is one where your athleticism should win out a bit. I want to see plenty of times, whether the shots are taken or not, at least from the receiver spot, some clear separation, get behind the defense. There's plenty of speed, especially compared to what you're playing. But a Wilson, a Mizell, a Burke should have no issue getting open down the field. You should be having catches down the field where there's nobody 7-8 yards around you. You should be just outrunning everybody. So be able to get some passes down the field. But I still wouldn't mind at the same time seeing some catch and run. I think Florida's going to have to kind of work that in. We know that's going to be a big part of this offense. When you go play the better defenses, like you can take advantage right now of being able to go down the field. You should have time to pass. Your quarterback should feel comfortable going down. Your receivers should be able to do it. But work on things that you know are going to be in the game plans that you're building up to when you start playing some better defenses. And a lot of short passes, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands and some catch and run opportunities, break some tackles, do some, we saw Eugene Wilson last week, in the play that was called back, do a little, catch the ball, little shake, little move, and he's gone. I want to see some more plays like that as well, because Florida's going to need those plays. I don't think there's going to be Florida's explosions this year are not going to come down the field in the 60-yard bomb type. They're just not. You may hit a few of them, but it won't be the consistent explosive plays. The explosives are going to come from catch and run opportunities. And I want to see some more of those on Saturday as well, especially with those young receivers out there. So I think that's where you go position by position. Overall for the offense, pick up the pace. I don't know how many opportunities they're going to have. They may not have the opportunities, but last week was not good. Florida late in the game situation in the fourth quarter. I'm going to detail it here in just a second, but the tempo was not all that great for this offense once again when it really needed to be.
You get behind, obviously, and you're 2 scores behind. There's a certain pace that comes with that. We can play with different tempos. I think a lot of that has to do with the plan each week. You've seen us play really fast at times, and then we have different processes, slow it down. We play complementary football, and certainly tempo is a piece to the puzzle. I don't necessarily think it's all of the puzzle.
So I tried to get Billy Napier on the SEC teleconference to go about into the pace of play, and he didn't really play along. And I know Graham Hall earlier in the week, he tried to as well, but he finally did last night. Maybe we just kind of had to ask the question more than once and ask it a different way each time. And I think he finally came around to talking about it, but it doesn't seem to be a big worry still. And we go back to that fourth quarter, guys. I'm going to detail it for you. Honestly, first, where can Florida do it this game? Well, you hope not in the fourth quarter in late situations, unless they just really want to do it. But could it be the end of the first half? Well, Florida needs help anyway. Going back to last year's offense and the middle 8, the last 4 of the first half, and the first 4 of the second half. But if Florida gets the ball late in the first half, I need to see the tempo. I need to see a 2-minute offense. And then now with the new clock rules, it's even more so important. And let's go back to last week. Let's go back to the Utah game. It's apparent. Florida's just wasting way too much time. Cannot get going on offense as far as tempo goes. So they ran 23 plays in the fourth quarter. 18 passes to 3 runs. You're down 24-3 to start the third quarter or start the fourth quarter. 18 passes to 3 runs. Okay, that's what you expect. Pull the ball down. 24-3 drive start toward the end of the third quarter. That's just a few plays. 16 left on. So you already know to start the fourth quarter, you have to drive the length of the field. And I just talked about the lack of explosives for Florida. You're not going to get the 60-yard, 70-yard bomb. You certainly wasn't getting it last week versus Utah. Utah's defense was the way they were playing you. So shift from the third quarter to the fourth quarter. Florida still has the ball deep in their own territory. And I'm going to go where plays where the clock was running, because that's where the difference is. On this first drive of the fourth quarter, when the clock was running and the ball was snapped, Florida snapped the ball with 11 seconds left, 9 seconds left, 9. And then you finally started speeding it up a little bit. 19, 20, 17, 11. All the way down to 4 seconds on the play clock on a 4th and 2 with 10 minutes left in the game. And then the clock was running also on the touchdown pass. That snap got to Graham Mertz with 19 seconds left on the play clock. So that's not even all the plays. That's just the plays where the clock was running. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That was 10 plays. 10 plays. That's, like I said, that's not even counting the other plays where the clock was stopped. But you had snaps, 3 snaps at 9 seconds. It's a 25-second play clock. Wasting so much time. On the 4th and 2, I mean, you absolutely had to get it, but you didn't snap the ball till 4 seconds left. And I know even more so important with the new clock rules. Even more so important. So then, of course, after the touchdown, it's 24-11. Utah. Florida gets the ball with 5:59 left on the clock. So basically 6 minutes left on the clock right here in the fourth quarter. And on plays where the clock is running, the ball was snapped with 15 seconds on the play clock when Florida was lined up with 25 seconds on the clock. Florida was already lined up and still took 10 seconds to snap the ball. And I know we see it. There's too much motion. And Florida just doesn't like motion is a huge part of this offense, but it also at the same time hinders this offense because of how much time it takes. And I know they want to do it to identify how the defense is playing you, but at times you just need to line up and go. You've got to beat the clock. Then the next play, snapped it at 18. They're lined up at 18. The ball was snapped with 12 seconds left, so 6 seconds right there. Then the ball was snapped at 17 seconds. Then 7 seconds with 3:34 left in the game. Then a snap at 8 seconds with 2:55 left in the game. I mean, there should be no reason the Florida snapping the ball with less than, I'll be generous here, 15 seconds. And with almost 3 minutes left in the game, there's one with 8 seconds left on the play clock. 7 seconds left on the play clock. So then, after the one where they snapped it with 17, the play clock was reset to 25. So you wasted 8 seconds there. Then the last snap came with 20 seconds left on a running clock. So wasted just so much time in that fourth quarter. Need to see some more tempo from this offense. So can Florida get into a situation where they're going to run some tempo here versus McNeese? And Billy Napier says, of course, we can. There's a time and a place. Well, fourth quarter versus Utah was a time and a place for it. And still, the tempo was not fast enough there to mount any kind of comeback. So hopefully they can kind of just see and maybe pick some situations. Maybe just come out and do it anyway, just to get it. It doesn't matter against McNeese how much time is left. It doesn't have to be late first half when your starters are maybe still playing because you need them to get the reps. And maybe sometime in the first quarter, just speed it up to see if you can do it. So there we go. That's offense, what I want to see. That's what I want to see there. But let's go defense. We'll go to the other side here and finish the play. I think that's what we kind of all want to see there. They did some things nice in pressure, just didn't get the sack. There were some plays just as good as a sack. When you force the quarterback to throw an incompletion and it's nowhere close to the receiver or throws it in traffic. I mean, there were times where Florida, I thought, should have had a sack, but the play was successful anyway. But now we got to finish the play. So if you were looking for a stat, looking for a certain number, you want to see some sacks here. You want to see at least 3-4 sacks in this game. And of course, the young guys. I mean, overall, we want to see the young guys play. I mean, that's what it's all about in games like these. And it's honestly a continuation from last week. I'm going to hear from Billy Napier again here from the SEC teleconference, but he details really details the young faces on defense and just how many freshmen played versus Utah.
A lot of rookies played. Jordan Castell played a significant number of snaps. You mentioned TJ Kelby Collins, had a role in the game. A lot of the young DBs, play on special teams. Jakeem Jackson, D.D. Johnson, Sharif Denson will have more of a role this week. Bryce Thornton played on special teams. Trayon Webb, Cameron James, Najee Harris played 13 plays in the game, at offensive line. So I think we played 14 true freshmen in the game. And then we had 8 transfers that were first-time players for the University of Florida as well. So 22 guys that had never played at UF played in the game last week, and I anticipate that number could increase this week.
All right, of course, and that's a high number. In the first game of the season, 14 true freshmen, a lot on defense, and a lot on defense making plays. I mean, Collins, and Castell was, you go watch the beginning of that game. I was so surprised how they were using him, and he was close to the line of scrimmage, and he was just everywhere on the field as the game went on. But he was just he was another outside linebacker at times, it seemed like. I love the way they used him, and I love the way he was able to come in right as a freshman, get in there. Just get in there down and dirty as a true freshman in, a tough team versus Utah, a team that, many teams you're going to face this year in the SEC that are as tough as Utah. You have a true freshman in there making a name for himself already. I love what I saw how they used Jordan Castell. We've already talked about it ad nauseum this whole week, but Kelby Collins, TJ Searcy really making plays. Searcy just, it seems just like blown off a cannon on the line right now. So really like what I see from true freshmen playing in a big game. That's a teaser for what we're going to see this weekend. They should go out there and just and purely dominate. But some guys up front where I'd like to see it, maybe more of an action. Jack Pyburn, from somebody who we heard of in fall camp, watched this play a little bit versus Utah. Didn't play at the level I thought he would. Probably not one of the best defenders on a consistent basis in run defense. I think he's going to be more in passing situations on this Gator defense, but I'd like to see what he can do there. Maybe a bounce back there from the Utah game. The interior, for the most part, last week did their jobs. Kind of filtering the plays over to the linebackers who really took advantage of it, like Shamar James and Scooby Williams there. So, but I want to see like this. Given this opponent, just pure terror up front from the middle guys. Your Cam Jacksons, your Des Watsons, your Chris McClellans there, and Cam Jackson. I know he had a passing in his family that he announced after the game last week there. So whether it affected this play or not, I don't know. But hopefully all is a-okay there, and we just see him come and be that player that we expected. But really, really light from the young guys. There and the new faces at the same time of what they were able to do. At linebacker, Jaden Robinson, true freshman, we'll probably see him a lot this week. Not sure how much we'll see somebody like Shamar James. They look, it's early in the season. A lot of these guys are still young, new faces. You're playing with so many other players that are around you that are so new. So you need the reps together. So you don't really want to risk injury here, but at the same time, I think we saw enough. And it's, look, you got a new defensive coordinator. He probably wants to try some things out and try some new combos out as well. So we might see a lot of these starters in the game longer than we necessarily think we would, just because of how young this team is and all the new faces that are on this team that really need to come together. And build as fast as they can. So linebacker, we may see some more Shamar James than we thought we would. But Manny Nunnery, Jaden Robinson, probably Derek Wingo probably gets a little more snaps this week. He played at the start of the Utah game some here and there, but not a whole lot of snaps overall. But then going through, we already talked about Starr just because of Perkins on his way out. You heard just that soundbite I just played. Did kind of sound like Billy Napier was probably hinting a little bit. You'll see Sharif Denson a little bit more this week. I think he was hinting about the move there. They probably knew Perkins was thinking about transferring before it was announced today. But as I said, Jordan Castell, want to see them move him, them use him a bit more. Does he start over RJ Moten this week? Remember, Castell was listed as a starter last week, but Moten got the start. Then you had the big play by Utah to start the game. So, who starts at safety? I just want to see it. Does the depth chart tell us who's actually going to start? And then, of course, Kimber Moore at one of the cornerback spots. Those guys kind of competition. I think you feel better, feel pretty good so far about what they did versus Utah, about that second cornerback spot. But now it's about Dijon Johnson. It's about Jakeem Jackson. And I think we'll see a lot from those guys this week. And there we go. I just want to see their performance and how aggressive those guys are. So on defense, I think just keep these new faces, these young guys gelling. And hey, I'll tell you somebody else who I was impressed with last week, and he was not talked about enough in the preseason and should be talked more about now. That's Jamari Lyons. Go back and watch the Utah game. He was in a good bit of plays and run plays. And we didn't talk about him enough. And we've talked about Cam Jackson. We've talked about Banks and Watson and McClellan. But before the season and coming off that Utah game, we really should be talking about Jamari Lyons more. He played a good game. He really played a good game. And he was somebody that unsolicited was brought up to me where the staff likes where he's at. And that's good news for Florida. Good news for Florida heading into SEC play soon, that they got probably even one more body you can add to the middle of that defensive line rotation. So I look to see a lot of him this weekend as well. But he was in the action early versus Utah, and he made the most of it, I thought. So I did a heavy defensive watch. When was it? 2 days ago. So Tuesday there. So really, really impressed with what I saw from Lions. Maybe we see more from Will Norman this week as well. So it could be the Lions and Norman show, as the second half of this game, as you get some more experience for those guys. I don't think the front played as fast as I wanted them to. They didn't wreak the havoc I wanted them to. I think the linebackers still benefited from these guys in front of them. So that was my biggest thing. It was allowing these linebackers to really kind of go downhill a bit more, not get caught up in so much traffic that we've seen throughout the years. I did think the defensive line in the run situations really did a good job of keeping it clean for the second level. And I want to continue to see. We should see that this week, of course, but moving forward with those guys and add more names to it, if they can continue to help the linebackers, but at the same time, see those guys make some plays as well. But yeah, yep. All right. Novell Beeman asked to do Spurlock. Yeah, maybe we'll see him too. He's not on the depth chart, but as I said, for a game like this, to throw down or throw away the deep part of the depth chart, because you're going to get a lot of playing time. But you do have a Jaden Robinson, who's a true freshman, on the depth chart, and not somebody like Deuce Spurlock, who was in his second year of playing college football to transfer from Michigan. But yeah, Willie Peterson, them freshmen going to be dangerous. Absolutely excited to see that. JC says, seriously, he dominated his man every time. He was one of those freshmen that I was hearing a lot of good things about back as a recruit and in the spring of how fast he was putting it together. And that you could see it. You really could see it. All right. Hey, man, this episode went longer than I thought it would. I mean, we don't even have this big time opponent here. I'm going an hour anyway when I really planned on like 35, 40 minutes. Yeah, that's what happens. Maybe I rambled. Maybe I went too far. Maybe I went too deep in some of this. But hey, it spent an hour with you Gators Breakdown listeners. So hey, hopefully you enjoyed it. A little bit of look ahead to this game and what I want to see, what a lot of what you want to see. So Scott brings up a good point, and I'll end it with this. Shane Matthews this morning said we should pass more. What are your thoughts on that? Well, I put up a stat earlier this week, and when Billy Napier passes more at Florida, it's not a good sign. Over 30 pass attempts, 0 for 5 are Billy Napier-led Gator teams right now. The highest pass attempts in a win for Florida is 28 last year versus Texas A&M. So in Billy Napier's offense and the way he builds it, the more you're throwing it, the less chance you have to win. The offense is built on running the ball. Now, now that's your identity. Now, if you change your identity, does that change the stats? I don't know. I don't know if that changes the percentage of Florida winning. Like when Graham Mertz came in, and I still tend to feel this way, and it's not a hit on him. It's really not. He's going to need the help. I think he needs the run game to win games. He can go out there and throw for 300 yards. That's what defenses want him to do. And after what we saw against Utah, a lot of that was what they were giving him in the fourth quarter. A lot of short yardage. Don't get me wrong. He took advantage and he did what he was supposed to do in those situations. But the big play is not there. And defenses are going to take that all the time. So, I mean, we just saw it, 44 pass attempts right now, and it still wasn't enough to win. And it still wasn't really enough to score only but one touchdown. So, I don't necessarily get the thought of passing more to win in this offense. Can eventually Billy Napier build an offense where passing more? Honestly, with somebody like DJ Lagway, it should down the road, but the team isn't constructed to win that way. And now the dangerous thing is, after what we saw from the run game last week, I don't even know if it's constructed to win that way. So if Florida's going to win some games this year and maybe win more games than we kind of see right now, they're going to have to be some ugly, ugly wins where the defense just balls out and you're winning a low score, one score game. But at the moment, I don't see where passing the ball more helps this offense. History says it doesn't help. The more times Florida throws it, they're not winning the game. 0 for 5, like I said, throwing over 30 times. So I don't know now. Maybe if you could spread it out and maybe get more empty sets or 4 receiver sets and it gets the ball out of Mertz's hands and you start hitting some more of those explosive plays, maybe, but I don't see Florida being able to march up and down the field, passing the ball like that, drive in and drive out in the SEC. I just don't see it. If Florida's going to win games this year, it's going to have to be very, very ugly or the run game's going to have to come around. I don't see... Look, I'm not going to sit here and say I know more than Shane Matthews. He played the position in college to a great, great level. Was a long-time NFL quarterback there. I know that's his opinion. I got mine on it. Stats say it doesn't help a Billy Napier offense at Florida so far. So maybe we see some things different. Maybe if you completely change your identity to go that way, it benefits. But the way this team is constructed, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. All right. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Good comments. Good questions. Some good questions off the heels of big Q&A with the Gators Breakdown Plus members yesterday as well. You can check that episode. A lot of fun, even though coming off that loss to Utah there. One more big thing. Big thanks to the Clay County Gators. Invite me to their Gator Club and speaking engagement there on Tuesday night. Had a lot of fun. Always a lot of fun with those. With that Gator Club there in Clay County. So big thanks to Brandon for the invite once again. And it was tough a little bit. It was tough a little bit after the loss to Utah. We're all kind of heartbroken a little bit still, but still fun to get around Gator Nation and and talk some Gator football. So all right, let's get the dub this week, Florida. I'm not even really gonna give a score prediction. I'll give a something like, it should be 50, 60 something to, I'll say 10 out there. That's the kind of score that I'm looking for right here from the Gators. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown. Check me out Sunday for the game review episode.